A whole 8 years. Think about that. Nearly a decade of my life, my devotion, my entire being, poured into a person I genuinely thought was my forever. My one. Her name was Murin. We stumbled into each other's lives in our mid-20s, finding common ground over bottles of two-buck chuck and conversations that stretched into the witching hour. From that starting point, we pieced together a world that was all our own. Look, I was never rolling in dough, but I gave her something solid, a bedrock of respect, a steady hand to hold, and the kind of quiet love that only gets richer after the initial firework fade of romance. We weathered it all, pink slips, bouts of flu that felt like the plague, the inevitable family meltdowns. Through thick and thin, we were a team. She was my ride or die. Or so I let myself believe. The shift started subtly about 3 months back. I began to sense a distance, a slight change in the atmosphere between us. Her girls' nights became more frequent. The clothes hanging in her closet started to change, swapping out comfortable for notice me. It was a more provocative style, a daring edge that felt like it was for an audience that wasn't me. The last thing I wanted to be was that guy, the suspicious, clingy husband. So, I bit my tongue and swallowed my concerns. I put my faith in her. Man, what a fool I was. That trust? It would eventually become the punchline to the cruelest joke I've ever known. It all came to a head on a Saturday night. She'd told me she was off to her friend Alina's place for their usual wine and board games ritual. Feeling beat from the week, I opted to stay in and hit the hay early. I surfaced from a deep sleep sometime later, the digital clock on the nightstand glaring 2 o'clock a.m. I reached over to an empty, cold space beside me. A quick check of my phone. No missed calls, no messages. I tried calling her. Nothing. Straight to voicemail. A knot began to tighten in my gut, but I told myself not to panic. Not yet. Then, at 4 a.m, the front door creaked open. She slipped in, a ghost in our home. Her hair was a mess, her lipstick was smeared far from its original lines, and she carried her high heels in one hand. The air she brought in with her was a foul cocktail of stale booze and a perfume I didn't recognize, a scent that made my stomach clench. She tried to tiptoe past the hallway, assuming I was dead to the world. But I was standing there, watching her. I kept my voice low when I asked where she'd been. Her response cut through the silence. "Don't do this right now." And just like that, my heart didn't just drop. It plummeted. The morning after was a masterclass in deflection. Her phone died, she claimed. The whole group had ended up at some swanky lounge, and she'd had one too many. But I wasn't an idiot. Her story was full of holes. I could feel the truth in my marrow, that primal instinct a man gets when he realizes the woman who shares his bed is no longer truly his. I played dumb for the rest of the day. Instead of pushing, I went a different route. I sent a casual text to Alina, asking if they had a good time. The response that pinged back on my screen was the first shovel of dirt on the grave of our marriage. "Wait," she said she was with me. "I've been out of town since Thursday for a family thing. Haven't seen Murin in over a week." Boom! Even then, I didn't fly off the handle. This wasn't about a screaming match anymore. This was about intel. I had to know the full scope of the battlefield before I fired the first shot. So, I did something that felt like a betrayal of my own principles. I opened her tablet, the one that was conveniently synced to her phone. And that's when the world fell away. It was all there, a digital blueprint of my humiliation. Clandestine group chats, secret folders of messages, photos and voice notes that made me physically ill. She hadn't just made a drunken mistake, she had pursued this. It was a planned excursion to a swinger party, an invitation from a friend of a friend that she had accepted with zero hesitation. One of her messages is now permanently seared into my brain. I love my husband, but I just need to feel alive again. Just for one night. Just once. She detonated 8 years of us for a fleeting cheap high with a group of strangers whose names she'd probably never know. When the moment of reckoning finally came, I didn't raise my voice. There was no shouting, no throwing plates. I just sat her down on the sofa we'd picked out together and said, with a calm that scared even me, "I know everything. I know where you were on Saturday night, and I know exactly what you did." The color drained from her face, leaving a hollow, ghostly mask. The performance began immediately. A torrent of tears, a flood of apologies, a waterfall of excuses. It was a horrible mistake. "I never meant to hurt you. I've been feeling so lost, and it just happened." She reached for me, a desperate attempt to bridge the canyon that had just opened between us. I moved back, as if her touch would burn. "You felt lost," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "And instead of turning to me, your husband, you decided to take off your wedding ring and offer yourself up to a room full of strangers." The begging went on for what felt like an eternity. She swore she'd do anything. Go to therapy, sever ties with those friends, devote every second to fixing us. But she was pleading with a ghost. The man who would have walked through fire for her had been incinerated by a few screenshots on a tablet. My reaction wasn't cinematic. It was quiet. Clinical. I went into our bedroom and packed a duffel bag with enough clothes for a week. I told her I needed space, and when she asked for how long, I told her the truth. I don't know. Maybe forever. I wasn't just leaving the house. I was exiting the life we'd built. Now, my phone is a constant shrine to her regret. A relentless digital siege of emails, texts, and tear-soaked voicemails where she swears she's a changed woman. But here's the cold, hard truth she can't seem to grasp. The fatal blow wasn't the act itself. It was the decision. She ruined us the moment she chose to walk out that door. The moment she chose to put her thrill-seeking ahead of my heart. The moment she convinced herself that just once was a price worth paying. So now, whenever I close my eyes, I don't see the woman I married anymore. I see a stranger, an arsonist, who carelessly burned our entire world to the ground for a single night of feeling alive. A night she can never, ever undo. And me? Well, I'm picking up the pieces. Day by day, I'm slowly, painfully relearning the simple, forgotten rhythm of just breathing on my own.